I can still hear the faint clatter of silverware and the hollow laughs from that Christmas dinner. The antique fireplace in my grandparents' country house in Vermont cast long shadows over faces that hadn't set foot in my bistro in nearly 5 years, even though it was just down the hill from our family's insurance agency. "Zoe!" My cousin Olivia's voice rang out, slicing through the casual small talk. "Tell everyone your exciting news." I looked up, already bracing myself. Olivia sat there in her crisp navy blazer, her engagement ring flashing under the soft light as she reached for her champagne flute. She wore that same smug expression she always had, when she was about to remind everyone why she was the pride of the Anders family. "I made regional director," she announced, her grin wide and confident, youngest in the agency's 112-year history. The table erupted with cheers. Grandpa beamed with pride. Grandma dabbed her eyes. Uncle Dennis raised his glass high. "To Olivia Anders, keeping the Anders legacy alive!" I took a small sip of cider, thinking about the investment proposals waiting back at my apartment. But nobody here knew about those. To them, I was just the eccentric Anders who chose cooking and coffee over real work. "And you, Zoe?" Great Aunt Linda turned to me with that syrupy sweet voice, a mixture of pity and judgment. "Still running that little cafe?" I smiled lightly. "It's called the Golden Elm Bistro, and yes, I am." "Still flipping pancakes, huh?" Olivia chuckled, trading smirks with our cousin Reed. "You know, the agency could always use another sales assistant, if you want something more stable." I toyed with my fork, remembering the client meeting I had that afternoon, the one where I secured a 5-year catering contract with the biggest ski resort chain in the region, a deal worth far more than Olivia's yearly commissions. But they didn't know that. Not yet. "The bistro keeps me busy enough," I answered casually. "Busy enough to pay for heating this place?" Grandpa teased, half joking. I almost laughed. If they only knew I bought the entire property the bistro sat on, plus 3 more on the block. "I get by," I said simply. Olivia dove into a long story about her latest multi-million-dollar policy negotiation. The family listened raptly, just like they always had. Olivia, the golden child who followed every rule. Ivy League, executive trainee program, and straight into the family business. And me? I was the disappointment who chose culinary school at 22 and turned a run-down old tavern into a booming destination that now made more in a quarter than their entire agency did in a year. "I just wrapped up the Sterling Hotels contract," Olivia was saying, swirling the last of her wine. "You should have seen their legal team panic when I pointed out the flaw in their liability clause. Mr. Whitaker was so impressed, he's moving all his accounts to our agency now." I kept my face carefully blank at the mention of Charles Whitaker. If Olivia only knew who really owned most of those resort properties, through shell companies managed by me. "I just don't get it," Grandma whispered later, trapping me by the sink while I dried dishes. "You're sharp, Zoe. You could have had everything Olivia has, the job, the reputation, the respect. Why waste your talents on a little diner?" I polished a heavy serving plate, thinking about my 9 a.m. conference call with the bank managers from 2 different states. "Not everyone dreams of insurance, Grandma," I said calmly. "But you're capable of so much more," she insisted. "Look at Olivia. The custom suits, the new Lexus, that gorgeous penthouse condo. Don't you want real success?" I thought about my own penthouse, the one I'd closed on last month under my investment firm's name. Top floor, better views, paid in full. "I'm happy with my choices," I said simply. Grandma sighed. Frustration etched across her features. "I just worry about your future," she said. "The restaurant business is so risky. What if you want a family someday? How will you support them?" I almost laughed, thinking about my growing real estate empire, my silent partnerships, my diversified stock portfolio. The bistro had only been step 1. A door into an entirely different world. Later that evening, as the family bundled up to leave, Olivia pulled me aside by the old oak coat rack. "Hey, I meant it, about the agency," she said, resting a manicured hand on my arm. "Uncle Dennis would set you up in underwriting. You could work your way up fast." "Thanks," I said lightly, shrugging her off. "But I'm exactly where I want to be. Olivia's smile faltered. Zoe, seriously, you can't run a breakfast place forever. Don't you want to be someone? Oh, if she only knew. I was someone already. Bigger than any of them had even dreamed. Tomorrow would prove it. I glanced at my watch. Gotta go. Early day tomorrow. Right, she said, smirking. Those waffles won't flip themselves. I drove back to town, to the real headquarters, hidden in plain sight, right above the Golden Elm Bistro. While my family thought I spent my days pouring syrup and wiping tables, I had built an empire in secret. The bistro was just the storefront, the visible part they could point at and belittle. Behind it stretched a vast network of real estate acquisitions, strategic investments, and quietly signed contracts that would soon reshape our little mountain town. Unlocking the private door tucked behind the pastry kitchen, I climbed the stairs to my real office, a sleek sunlit space outfitted with nothing but essentials. I slid into my leather chair and opened the folder labeled Whitaker Holdings. Tomorrow morning, Charles Whitaker wouldn't be meeting with Olivia at some high-rise agency office. He'd be meeting with me, in my bistro. For years he had helped me discreetly acquire properties through various shell companies, never revealing to his own team or my family who the true buyer was. I pulled out the final contract, the one consolidating all my holdings into a single entity, Anders Ridge Management. The name that held just enough family irony to make me smirk. My phone buzzed. A message from Ooja. Dinner was fun. FYI, Mr. Whitaker might pop into your cafe tomorrow. Don't mess it up. He's very important to the agency. I set the phone down without answering, my smile widening. Tomorrow would be unforgettable. The paperwork was simple. All the companies I'd created over the past 5 years would merge under Anders Ridge. The transfer would make me the largest landowner between Montpelier and Burlington, all without ever stepping into a courtroom. As I double-checked the final signatures, I thought about Olivia's cocky grin at dinner, Grandma's worried whispers, Uncle Dennis's patronizing jokes. They had no idea. While they had chased titles and nameplates, I'd been buying the very ground beneath them. Tomorrow morning, everything would change. I arrived at the Golden Elm Bistro before sunrise. Ellie, my manager, was already prepping the coffee bar. The meeting room's ready, she said, handing me a cup, though honestly, why does some big shot want to meet here instead of a proper office? I just smiled, sipping my coffee. Sometimes the biggest deals happen where no one's looking. At exactly 9 a.m., Charles Whitaker pushed open the glass door. Despite being one of New England's most powerful developers, he wore simple jeans and a navy sweater. That's what I liked about Charles. No flashy show, just results. Morning, Miss Anders, he greeted, warmly. Then, a little louder. Could I get a cappuccino? I grinned, slipping behind the counter. It was a game we knew well, me the cheerful small business owner, and him the casual customer. Nobody had any idea we were about to sign a deal worth tens of millions, right, over coffee. As I frothed the milk, the front door chimed again. I glanced up to see Olivia striding in, leather briefcase in hand, her heels clicking against the wood floor. Mr. Whitaker, she called out, clearly startled to find him here. I wasn't expecting to see you this early. Charles accepted his cappuccino from me with a nod and a warm smile. Ah, Mr. Zenders, your cousin makes the best coffee in town. Would you care to join our meeting? Olivia hesitated, eyes darting between us. Meeting? Yes, he said smoothly. Regarding the Ridge Valley Development Project. He gestured to the private meeting room at the back. Shall we? I could see Olivia's mind spinning, trying to figure out why her most important client was having a meeting inside her cousin's little breakfast place. Still, she followed us, her curiosity outweighing her skepticism. The room was cozy but professional, sturdy oak table, comfortable chairs, soft ambient lighting. Only the small security camera tucked into the corner hinted that something bigger was about to happen. I'll need another witness, Charles said, pulling a thick folder from his briefcase. Perhaps your cousin could assist. Olivia's polished composure cracked for a split second. Zoe? Oh no, she just runs the cafe. She doesn't need to get involved in legal matters. Charles raised an eyebrow. On the contrary, she's essential to this meeting. I sat confidently at the head of the table, savoring the confusion flickering across Olivia's face. Actually, Olivia, you're the one who doesn't need to be here. But since you are, you might as well witness something interesting. At that moment, the front door chimed again. Grandpa and Uncle Dennis entered, spotting Olivia and drifting toward the back. "What's going on here?" Grandpa asked sharply, frowning. "Why is Mr. Whitaker meeting you? In a cafe?" Before Olivia could answer, Charles stepped forward smoothly. "Actually, I invited everyone here. It seemed fitting to finalize these papers where it all began." "Where what began?" Olivia demanded. I opened my laptop and projected the presentation onto the mounted screen. The title slide glowed brightly, Anders Ridge Management Consolidation. Underneath, a detailed map of the downtown area lit up, entire blocks highlighted, dozens of properties falling under one name. "Anders Ridge Management," Grandpa murmured, his voice thin. "My company," I said calmly. "You might recognize a few subsidiaries too. Golden Elm Properties, Ridge Valley Estates, Summit Holdings." Olivia sank into a chair, stunned as realization set in. Those are all the properties we've been handling insurance policies for," Olivia stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "The ones owned by Mr. Whitaker's investment groups." "Not exactly," Charles corrected her smoothly. "Those properties belong to your cousin? I've merely helped her acquire them, quietly, over the years." "That's impossible," Grandpa sputtered, his face reddening. "Zoe runs a cafe. She couldn't possibly." I pulled out my own thick folder and laid it neatly on the table. "The bistro was only the beginning," I said calmly. "When I bought this building 5 years ago, I saw an opportunity. Main Street was undervalued, scattered. Nobody was looking at the big picture. While you were busy mocking my little breakfast place," I continued, "I was meeting investors, studying property values, and stitching together the largest privately held real estate network this town has ever seen." Olivia yanked the contract toward her, her polished fingers flipping through page after page. Her expression shifted, disbelief, confusion, and finally, awe. "This is worth—" She swallowed hard. "This is worth hundreds of millions. You own half of Ridge Valley." "More than half," Charles added with a chuckle. "Your cousin has a knack for spotting potential where others only see problems. Rather like buying a crumbling tavern and turning it into the foundation of an empire." Grandpa slumped into a chair, looking pale. "Why didn't you tell us?" "Would you have believed me?" I asked quietly. "You were too busy assuming I was wasting my life flipping pancakes. It was easier to let you think that, while I built something on my own terms." "But you wear an apron," Olivia stammered, still trying to connect the dots. "Yep." I smiled thinly. "I wear a lot of things. Sometimes an apron, sometimes a business suit. The difference is, I never needed anyone else's approval to know my own worth." Charles pulled out a pen, placing it ceremoniously atop the final contract. "Shall we make it official?" I signed first, bold and certain. Charles followed, dating it with a flourish. And just like that, Anders Ridge Management officially became the largest consolidated property owner in Ridge Valley. "Congratulations," Charles said, shaking my hand. "Though I'll miss our investment meetings disguised as casual coffee chats." "The bistro's still here," I laughed softly. "Though I might need to add a second floor once all the newly curious clients start coming by." Later that night, after the family had dispersed to lick their wounds, I sat alone in my office above the Golden Elm. The winter lights twinkled over the quiet streets below, my streets now, in more ways than one. My phone buzzed. A text from Grandma. "Can we meet? Maybe. Over breakfast?" I looked out over my thriving cafe and smiled. One plate, one cup, one deal at a time. I had built my empire exactly how I wanted. "Sure," I texted back. "I know a great little spot downtown. The owner's doing pretty well these days, from what I hear. Sometimes success doesn't come wrapped in a corner office or a designer label. Sometimes it wears an apron, pours coffee, and quietly buys the whole block. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right. I closed my laptop with a quiet snap and headed down the stairs. Tomorrow, the local papers would carry headlines about Anders Ridge Management's consolidation, and the whole town would know. But tonight, I still had a bistro to run. Because the best deals, the ones that change everything, don't happen in marble boardrooms. They happen right here, over a warm plate of pancakes, a strong cappuccino, and a silent certainty in who you are and what you're capable of building. If you've made it this far, I just want to say thank you. This story isn't just about me. It's about anyone who has ever been underestimated, overlooked, or cast aside because you didn't fit the mold someone else built for you. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever been doubted? Mocked for dreaming differently? Share your story. Let's lift each other up and show the world that success doesn't have just one look, one path, or one timeline. If you feel a connection to my journey, leave a message. I would love to hear it. Your voice matters more than you think. And if there's one piece of advice I can leave you with, it's this. Don't waste your energy trying to prove your worth to people who refuse to see it. Build it quietly. Build it proudly. Build it so strong that one day they'll have no choice but to recognize it. Wear the apron. Wear the suit. Wear whatever you want. Just remember that your worth has never depended on outside approval. It is defined by your actions, your persistence, and your belief in your own vision. I built my empire one cup of coffee at a time. And you can too, no matter what your dream looks like. Start small, stay smart, stay focused. Because sometimes the best way to change the world isn't by making noise, but by quiet, relentless, unstoppable success.